The number of unwanted pregnancies among older women is said to be on the rise. About 54% of women born between 1965 and 1969 fell pregnant in 2016 when they had not had any plans to have more kids. Statistics South Africa's unwanted fertility report shows a 13.2% rise from the last survey conducted in 1998. For more on what could be contributing to this, I'm joined live from our Pretoria studios by Diego Iturralde. He's Chief Director for Demography at Stats SA. Diego, a very good evening to you. Thank you for being on Nightline. So, 54% of women born between 1965 and 69 experienced what you are describing as these unwanted incidences of fertility, unwanted pregnancies, if you will. How does that happen?
Good evening. Thank you very much for having me. So this data comes from the South African Demographic and Health Survey, which, as you indicated, was run in 1998 and 2016. It's a syndicated survey, which means that all developing countries around the world who choose to have this survey have the same questionnaire asked to them. And so the Department of Health, the MRC and Stats SA put their heads together and resources together to make the 2016 DHS come to fruition. Now, what this report is indicating is that for women aged who were born between 1965 and 69, in 2016, 54% of these women have indicated that they had a child after they had decided not to have any more children. So this can have certain ramifications with regards to the assessment of the success of family planning. It can have ramifications for maternal and child health as well. But more than anything else, it actually tells us that there's a changing pattern of fertility in the country that we need to be aware of and that we need to take into consideration when developing and reassessing family planning programs. Now, the 54% applies only to those women born in between 65 and 69, but the overall rate for all women aged 15 to 49 increased from the 1998 survey from 17.3% to the 2016 survey to just over 20%.
And the figure among poorer women was at about 25%, around 13% for women in richer situations or richer households. That's right. Is that to do with a lack of access to services or more an education issue around birth control and that sort of thing?
Yeah, so I think you'd touch on two things, income and education. And the survey doesn't go into that level of detail to ask why is it that you fell pregnant again after you decided not to have any more children. But from basic demography, from what we understand about fertility dynamics, and from what the survey is telling us about the income and education, we see that women in the poorest quintile are twice as likely to have an unwanted birth than those in the richest quintile. When we look at education, in the 2016 survey, it shows that women with no education at all were 4 times as likely to have an unwanted birth as a woman with a tertiary education. Now, with regards to the reasons that we can speculate why, we can firstly assess that family planning programs have not succeeded in one way or the other, or that family planning was not followed out properly. Secondly, it may be that the partner of the woman wanted more children, whereas the woman had indicated that she was not willing to have any more. Or it could be family pressure in that the decision to have more children came from outside the woman, and there was family pressure to have more children. So that's just mere speculation. This is what we see in the literature. It's not necessarily specific to this particular survey, but these are things that we can take into consideration as to why this is happening.
And it can't be missed, of course, that you and I are having this conversation in March of 2020. This survey, of course, relies on data from 2016, so very likely outdated then.
Well, let me put it to you like this. The South African Demographic Health Survey, as I indicated, it's a syndicated survey. Many developing countries around the world run exactly the same survey. And the survey is run every 5 years. So when we talk about being out of date, I don't think that's exactly a fair comment to make. Yes, situation and conditions may change. The economic climate may contribute to changing fertility patterns. Phenomena in demography take a long time to show a particular change or a significant change. And we won't see a significant change in fertility behavior from 2016 to 2020, where we are now. So we are scheduled to have the next South African Demographic and Health Survey next year. And we'll see what findings emanate from there.
And I very quickly then, Diego, want to squeeze in this question. I might have missed it, but what becomes of the children in these pregnancies? Do the mothers keep a large majority of them?
The survey does not indicate what happens to these children. Obviously, these children are then born to an older mother, or there's a big age gap between the previous child and this particular child. There are obviously challenges related to this, and these are the types of challenges which mothers like this have to face. I think it's also worth mentioning that this report, besides looking at this phenomenon of unwanted fertility, the report also had a look at the difference between the number of children that women gave birth to and the number of children that women indicated they would have liked to have at the beginning of their childbearing years. And in that regard, we actually see that women are having slightly fewer children than what they had indicated at the beginning of their childbearing years. But for those women who have indicated an excess number of children based on ideal family size, we see that the majority of women have exceeded their family size by one, more so than two or more children. Mm-hmm. So I think that the dynamic between unwanted fertility on the one hand and excess fertility, or the lack of excess fertility, on the other hand, speak to each other in terms of this changing fertility pattern.
Diego Iturralde, Chief Director of Demography at Statistics South Africa, thank you so much for your time.